Namaste. I'm gonna read one chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam in English, and then I'll study the Yoga Sutras. Because I read up to chapter 14 yesterday of book 1. I was up to 15 and I couldn't finish it. So I'm just gonna read this translation. There's a link in the description of the Sanskrit version of book 1, chapter 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam, and there I've created timestamps for the first time. So you could go to chapter 1 once you click on the link. Sorry. Alright, I'm tired, so I just want to finish this and go to sleep. So today's study is gonna be just 1 hour long. I want to do a little ASMR, and then go to sleep. Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana, Book 1, Chapter 1, Discourse 1. We meditate on that transcendent reality from whom this universe springs up, in whom it abides and into whom it returns, because he is invariably present in all existing things and is distinct from all non-entities, who is self-conscious and self-effulgent, who revealed to Brahma by his mere will the Vedas that cause bewilderment even to the greatest sages, in whom this threefold creation, though unreal, appears as real, even as the sun's rays are mistaken for water, water for earth and earth for water, and whoever excludes Maya by his own self-effulgent glory. In this glorious Bhagavata, produced by the great sage Vedavyasa, has been taught that supreme religion, which is entirely free from all self-deception in the shape of desire. Nay, herein has been expounded that absolute reality, which can be known only by saints, who are free from malice, nay, which is the bestower of supreme bliss and uproots the threefold agony. While it is doubtful that God can be speedily captured in one's heart by other means, he can be instantly seized through this work by those blessed persons who have a keen desire to hear it recited. O ye devotees possessing a taste for divine glory, Srimad Bhagavata is the fruit of the bush-yielding tree of Veda, dropped on earth from the mouth of the parrot-like sage Shuka, and is full of the nectar of supreme bliss. It is unmixed sweetness. Go on drinking this divine nectar again and again till there is consciousness left in you. Once upon a time, in the forest known as Naimishoranyo, a place sacred to Lord Vishnu, Shaunaka and other sages were engaged in a great sacrifice to be completed in the course of 1,000 years, with a view to realizing the Lord who is sunk in heaven and is the abode of his devotees. One morning, having poured oblations into the sacred fire, the sages paid their respects to the Suda. And when he had taken his seat, they asked him the following question with due reverence. The sages said, O sinless Suda, you have indeed studied and also expounded all the Puranas and Itihasas, as well as the codes of laws, whatever is known by the divine sage Badarayana, the foremost among the knowers of Veda, and even by other sages who have realized both the qualified and absolute aspects of the Godhead. You know all that in reality, by their grace, which you were able to earn by your guileless and pure heart. For the teachers confide even their profoundest secrets to their beloved pupil. Be pleased to tell us, O long-lived Suda, that which you have determined through a study of all those sacred books as the unfailing and easy means to the supreme good of men. O the ornament of holy congregations, in this age of Kali, people are mostly short-lived, slothful, most dull-witted, unlucky and tormented with diseases and other evils. The scriptures, too, are numerous and inculcate not one discipline, but a number of practices and rituals, and besides, they have to be listened to part by part. Therefore, benevolent as you are, draw out by your critical insight their quintessence and declare the same to us, who are full of faith, so that our mind may become placid and tranquil. Sutta, God bless you. You know the purpose for which the Divine Lord, the protector of his devotees, was born of Devaki, Vasudeva's country. Dear Sutta, please explain it to us who are keen to hear of the same. For the Lord's descent on this earth is intended for the protection and prosperity of all living beings. Anyone who has fallen into the terrible whirlpool of birth and death can be speedily delivered from the same if he utters his name even helplessly, for fear itself is afraid of the Lord. Sutta, sages who have taken shelter in his feet and therefore ever abide in perfect calm forthwith purify those who come in contact with them, whereas the waters of the celestial stream cleanse the heart only by long and continued use. Is there anyone who, though desirous of purifying one's soul, will refuse to hear the glory of that divine Lord, whose exploits are extolled by saints of holy renown, since such glory wipes out the impurities of the godly age? Narrate to us who are full of reverence the noble doings of the Lord who playfully assumes various forms, the doings that have been sung by seers. O my Sutta, now recount the blessed stories of the descent of the Almighty Lord, who enacts at will sports of various kinds by dint of his yogamaya. We, for our part, are never sated with hearing the exploits of the illustrious Lord, which are more and more delightful to hear at every step to those listeners who have a taste for sweet things. Indeed, the divine Shri Kurushana, who had disguised himself in a human semblance, performed with his elder brother Shri Balarama feats that were beyond human power. Having come to know that the age of Kali has arrived, we are assembled in this holy retreat sacred to Shri Vishnu for a long and sacrificial session and have thus got ample time to hear the stories of Shri Hari. This age of Kali takes away the purity of man's heart and is thus difficult to conquer. Anxious as we are to get over this Kali, Providence has arranged our meeting with you, even as a pilot is shown to those who seek to cross a turbulent sea. Since Shri Kurushana, the master of yoga, the friend of the Brahmanas, and the protector of virtue, has left for his abode, tell us in whom has righteousness sought protection now. Thus ends the first discourse forming part of the story relating to the Naimisha forest in Book 1 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita. I'm going to read another chapter in English. I read all the Sanskrit. This is really therapeutic now because I read the Sanskrit. Discourse 2. Vyasa says, Ugrashrava was transported with joy to hear this question of the holy Brahmanas. He welcomed their words and commenced his discourse. Sutta said, when the sage Dvaipayana saw his son going away all alone with the intention of leading the life of a recluse, even though he had not yet been invested with the sacred thread and had, therefore, had no occasion to perform any secular or religious duties, he was agitated at the thought of separation from him and called out, "Hello, my son." At that time, it was the trees that responded on his behalf, filled as they were by his presence. I bow to the sage, who has access to the hearts of all. Srimad Bhagavata is a mysterious Purana. It possesses a glory of its own and constitutes the very essence of all the Vedas. It is a unique light illuminating the spiritual realities for those worldly men who seek to go beyond the darkness of ignorance. It was out of compassion for such men that this teacher of sages, Shukadeva, uttered this Purana. Oh, I should change the chapter. Sorry. I take supreme person. I take refuge in the son of Vyasa. After bowing to the divine sages Narayana and Nara, the supreme person, goddess Saraswati, and the sage Vyasa, one should then recite Srimad Bhagavata. Sages, you have done well in asking me a question which is conducive to the welfare of the world. Who do I have to bow down to? Saraswati, so Narayana, Nara, and Shri Krishna, Vyasa. Okay, got it. Sages, you have done well in asking me a question which is conducive to the welfare of the world, for your inquiry relates to Shri Krishna, a topic which completely purifies the heart. That alone is the highest duty of man, from which follows devotion to Shri Krishna. a devotion which is absolutely motiveless and knows no obstruction, and as a result of which the soul realizes the all blissful God and thus attains its object. Contact established with Bhagavan Vasudeva through devotion speedily awakens dispassion and immediate knowledge. A duty well performed is but labor lost if it fails to generate love for the stories of Bhagavan and Vishvabhakasena. Riches cannot be the end of dharma, which culminates in absolution or final beatitude. Even so, wealth is a means of earning religious merit. Sensuous enjoyment has not been recognized as its consummation. Again, gratification of the senses is not the end of sensuous enjoyment. Keeping the body and soul together is the only use of sensuous enjoyment. An inquiry into truth is the object of keeping the body and soul together, and not the attainment of heaven, etc., through the performance of pious acts. The knowers of truth declare knowledge alone as the reality, that knowledge which does not admit of duality. In other words, which is indivisible and one without a second, and which is called by different names such as Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. I should have just said the English words. The Absolute, the Supreme Spirit or Oversoul, and the Deity. The sages who are full of faith perceive that truth as their own self in their own heart through devotion, coupled with knowledge and dispassion, and acquired through hearing. Therefore, O noblest of Brahmanas, the consummation of duties efficiently performed by men according to their respective varna and ashrama lies in securing the pleasure of Shri Hari. Hence, the undivided mind one should ever hear and hence, with undivided mind one should ever hear and sing the praises of, meditate upon and worship the Lord, who is the protector of his devotees. The learned, who are armed with the sword of constant meditation on him, cut asunder the hard knot of kaima therewith, who then would not take delight in his stories. By resorting to holy places of pilgrimage, Brahmanas, one obtains the privilege of waiting on exalted souls and thereby successively develops a desire for hearing the stories of Bhagavan Vasudeva, faith in and a relish for such stories. Shri Krishna is a disinterested friend of the virtuous, and his praises sanctify those who listen to or sing them. He abides in the heart of those who hear his stories and uproots the evil propensities of their mind. When the evil propensities are well nigh eradicated through the constant service of his devotees, there wells up abiding devotion to the Lord of excellent fame. The mind is then free from passions such as lust and greed, which have their root in rajas and tamas, and established in sattva attains purity. In this way, when one is rid of all worldly attachment through loving devotion to the Lord, and the mind is filled with delight, one realizes the truth relating to God as a matter of course. The moment a man sees God as his very self, the knot of ignorance in his heart is broken asunder, all his doubts are dispersed, and the entire stock of his kaimas gets liquidated. That is why, with utmost delight, the wise constantly practice devotion to Lord Vasudeva, which purifies the soul. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas are the three attributes or modes of Prakriti. Assuming these for the preservation, creation, and destruction of this universe, the one Supreme Person severally bears the names of Hari, Bininchi, and Hara. Yet the supreme good of men flow from Shri Hari alone, whose body consists of pure sattva. Just as smoke is higher than wood, which is an earthly substance, and higher than smoke is fire, which is associated with many sacrificial acts recommended in the three Vedas. Even so, Rajas is superior to Tamas, and even higher than Rajas is sattva, with the help of which one is able to realize God. Of yore, sages worship for their salvation Bhagavan Vishnu alone, who is pure sattva personified. Even now, those who follow in their footsteps likewise get qualified for blessedness. Those seeking liberation worship Bhagavan Narayana, and his part manifestations, all of whom are so gentle in aspect, leaving alone the lords of evil spirits, who possess a terrible form, though not reviling them. Those, however, who possess the Rajasika or Tamasika disposition, and are seekers of wealth, power, and progeny, worship domains, evil spirits, and the lords of created beings, possessing as they do a character similar to theirs. The Vedas ultimately treat of Bhagavan Vasudeva. The sacrifices themselves aim at the attainment of Vasudeva. The various yogas eventually lead to Vasudeva, and all sorts of rituals too have their end in Vasudeva. All wisdom has its culmination in Vasudeva. All austere penances has Vasudeva for its goal. All virtue aims at the realization of Vasudeva, and all destinies culminate in Vasudeva. Although the Lord is himself beyond the Prakriti, primordial matter, sorry, I should just read the English words. I already read the Sanskrit one. And the three modes. Yet it was he who evolved this universe at the beginning through his own Maya, which consists of the aforesaid three gunas and is both real and unreal. Having entered into these three gunas that have been evolved by the aforesaid Maya, he appears as possessed of these gunas, although many, when abiding in the different logs of wood that manifested, so does God, the soul of the universe, appear as many, when manifested in different beings. Entering the various material bodies created by himself out of the various evolutes of the three gunas, such as the subtle elements, the senses, and the mind, the Lord enjoys the sense objects appropriate to such bodies. It is he again who creates the different worlds and descending by way of sport in different species, such as the gods, the human beings, and the lower forms of life, protects all the beings through his sattva or goodness. Thus ends the second discourse, forming part of the story relating to the Naimisha forest in Book 1 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, or otherwise known as the Paramamsa Samhita. This verse is verse 32 is, I want to read it again. Just as fire, though really one, appears as many when abiding in the different logs of wood. So does God. Wow. Fire is one appear in different logs, so they appear as many. So does God, the soul of the universe, appear as many when manifested in different beings. Entering the various bodies created by himself out of the various evolutions. It is he again who creates the different worlds, and descending by way of sport in different species, such as the gods, the human beings, and the lower forms of life, protects all the beings through his sattva or goodness. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna read another chapter. I don't know how many chapters I want to read. Since I read the Sanskrit, it's natural that I'm desiring explanations or the translation. Discourse 3. Sutta says, in the beginning, with the desire of evolving the different worlds, the Lord assumed the form of Purusha, consisting of 16 component principles, etc. While he was displaying his sleep of samadhi, reposing on the causal waters, there appeared from the lake of his navel a lotus wherefrom sprang up Brahma, the Lord of progenitors of the world. It is on the disposition of his limbs that the various worlds stand superimposed. That is the most exalted form of the Lord, consisting of pure sattva or goodness. The yogis behold that form by means of their divine eye, wonderful as it is, with its thousands of feet, thighs, arms, and faces. It has thousands of heads, ears, eyes, and noses, and is resplendent with thousands of diadems, robes, and earrings. This form of the Lord is the imperishable seed of the various avatars and the abode to which they all return. It is by a ray of his ray that God's human beings and the lower forms of life are created. It was this very Lord who, first manifesting himself as the Kumaras, took the form of 4 Brahmanas and observed the high vow of perpetual celibacy. During the second avatara, the Lord of all sacrifices assumed the form of the divine boar with a view to lifting the earth that had sunk into the lowest depths of the ocean. in order to proceed with the work of creation. Appearing in the person of the celestial sage, in his third manifestation as a Rishi, he taught the gospel of the Vaishnavas, which inculcates the method of doing things in such a way that may cease to bind us. They may cease to bind us. During his fourth manifestation, in which he was born of Dharma's better half, he appeared in the dual form of the sages Narayana and practiced the severe penance with perfect control of the mind and senses. His fifth manifestation was known by the name of Kapila, the lord of the Siddharthas, who taught to the sage Asuri the Sankhya system of philosophy that determines the nature of the fundamental principles and have been cast into oblivion through the ravages of time. During his sixth manifestation, he appeared as a son of the sage Atri at the entreaty of Anasuya and taught the science of the self to King Alaika, Prahlada, and others. Okay, this will be the last chapter I'm gonna read. I'm getting tired. It's a 20-minute reading so far. Thereafter, in the seventh manifestation, he was born Agudi, the spouse of Ruchi, as Yajinya, assisted by his sons Yama and the other gods. He held the office of Indra during the first Manvantara, presided over by Svayambhuva Manu. In the eighth manifestation, the all-pervading Lord was born of Queen Meru Devi, the spouse of King Naapi, and taught by his own example the mode of life of the Paramahamsas, which is adored by men belonging to all the four ashramas or stages of life. During his ninth descent, at the solicitation of the seers, he took the form of a king and made the earth yield all its products. And hence this particular manifestation of the Lord proved most propitious to the world. At the end of the Jagshusha Manvantara, when all the three worlds were being deluged by the ocean, he took the form of a fish and rescued the future Vaivasvata Manu, picking him up on the earth, which had been transformed into a boat. During his 11th manifestation, when the gods and the demons began churning the ocean, the Lord assumed the form of a tortoise and supported Manmandara on his back. In his 12th descent, he took the form of Tambantari. While during his 13th manifestation, he assumed the form of an enchanting woman and gave the gods the nectar to drink, keeping the others spellbound all the while. In his 14th manifestation, he took the form of a man-lion and tore with his claws the bosom of the most powerful demon king, even as a maker of straw mats would tear a reed. Assuming the form of a dwarf in his 15th descent, he visited the sacrificial performance of Bali and asked him for 3 paces of land with the covert intention of robbing him of heaven. In his 16th descent, he found that the kings had become inimical to the Brahmanas. Enraged at this, he rid the earth of the Kshatriya race as many as 21 times. Then, in his 17th descent, he was born of Satyavati through the sage Parashara, and finding the people of poor intelligence, divided the tree of Veda into many branches. Then again, he assumed the form of a ruler of men with a view to accomplishing the purpose of the gods, and performed heroic feats like bridging the ocean and so on. In the 19th and the 20th, the Lord was born among the Vishnus as Balarama and Shri Krishna, and relieved the earth of its burden. When Kali sets in, he will be born in Magadha as Buddha, son of Ajana, with a view to deluding the enemies of gods. Then again, towards the end of the Kali age, when the kings mostly turn into robbers, the Lord of the universe will take descent from Vishnu Yasha as Lord Kalki. Even as thousands of rivulets flow from a lake that never dries, so there are countless descents of the Lord, who is a storehouse of Satadeva, O Brahmanas. The sages and seers, the Manus, the gods, the sons of the Manus, the Prajapatis, in fact all those who possess great power, are rays of Shri Hari. All these, however, are either part manifestations or rays of the Supreme Person, while Shri Krishna is the Lord himself. All these avatars or manifestations of the Lord appear from age to age and protect the world when it is oppressed by the enemies of Inandra. Very hard to enunciate without my medicine. The story of the Lord's descent is a secret. The man who devoutly recites it every evening and morning with a pious mind is rid of all suffering. Maybe I should read it evening and morning. 2 chapters a day. I'll think about this. This gross manifestation of the Lord, who is essentially spiritual and has no material form, has been evolved by the products of his Maya, such as Mahat and so on, and superimposed on the Lord himself. Even as men of poor wits assume the existence of the clouds in ether and of dustiness in the air, so the ignorant superimpose the gross phenomenal universe on the self, who is the seer. Beyond this material form is a subtle form of the Lord, which is constituted of undeveloped gunas, and is neither open to perception nor to hearing. It is this body which is termed as the jiva or soul, and goes through repeated births or transmigrations. It is through nescience that the aforesaid astral and material bodies are superimposed on the place of realization of Brahma. The knowers of truth are aware that when the Lord's supportful Maya in the shape of knowledge withdraws, the jiva becomes one with Brahma and gets established in the glory of the self. In such terms do the wise describe the descents as well as the doings of the Lord, who is the ruler of all hearts and is really without birth or actions, for his descents and doings are the guarded secret of the Vedas. The pastimes of the Lord are always purposive. By mere sport he creates, preserves, and reabsorbs this universe, but never gets attached to it. Abiding unperceived in the heart of all living beings, he seems to enjoy the objects of the mind in the 5 senses as the ruler of all the 6. But being the master of his self, he remains aloof from these objects. No stupid creature can know by any dialectical skill the names and forms or doings of the Lord revealed by his thought or word, any more than an ignorant man can understand the performance of a conjurer accomplished through his will and speech. The power of the Lord who wields the discus in his hand is infinite. Though the maker of this world, he remains ever beyond it. He alone can know his ways, who inhales the fragrance of his lotus feet through constant and sincere devotion to them. Now you blessed ones are lucky indeed, since you in this life and in this world thus cultivate that undivided love to Bhagavan and Vasudeva, the Lord of the entire universe, by virtue of which one never falls again into the terrible vortex of birth and death. The divine seer Vedavyasa composed this Purana, known by the name of Srimad Bhagavatam, which stands on a par with the Vedas and contains the stories of the Lord of excellent renown. He taught this blessed, benedictory, and great Purana for the highest good of mankind to his son, who is the foremost among self-realized souls. This represents the very cream extracted from all the Vedas and Itihasas. Shuka in his turn recited it to the great king Parikushrit, who sat on the bank of the Ganga, surrounded by the foremost sages, with a vow to fast unto death. Now that Shri Kurushana has left for his abode with piety, wisdom, and all, the sunlight Purana has made its appearance for the benefit of those who have been blinded in this Kali age. While the glorious sage Shukadeva, or Brahmanas, was reciting this Purana there, I too was present and learned it by his grace. I will now recite the same to you, even as I have learned it, according to the best of my lights. Thus ends the 13th discourse, forming part of the story relating to the Naimisha forest in Book 1 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita. I am gonna stop here. I might do ASMR or I might go to sleep. But I think I'm too tired to go on. 33 isn't bad though. Alright, one more. I have to read up to chapter 14 in English somehow. Maybe by tomorrow I'll do it. Hello, Burfi. He writes, Hare Krishna, Mr. Pig. It's been a while since I last watched your live shows. It's a pleasure to watch your live shows again. Wow. Thank you very much. It's a really nice compliment. Thank you very much. Namaste. Yeah, my brain is fried. Without my medicine, my brain crawls. Discourse 4, Vedavyasa says, when Sutta spoke thus, Shanaka, who was a student of Raghuveda and the head of a large seminary, and was the oldest of the sages assembled for that long sacrificial session, applauded him and said, Shanaka said, Sutta, you are highly blessed and the foremost of expositors. Pray repeat to us the same sacred story of the Lord as the divine sage Shuka recited. In which particular yuga was the discourse held, and at what place, and what was the occasion for it? And at whose instance did the sage Krishna compose this Samhita? His son is a great yogi, viewing all alike, in whose eye diversity has ceased to exist, whose mind is exclusively set upon God, and who has awoke from the sleep of worldliness. He remains incognito, and is therefore taken for a stupid fellow. On perceiving the sage Vyasa following his son, the ladies covered themselves out of modesty, even though the sage had clothes on, while they took no notice of his son. Noticing this strange behavior on their part, the sage asked them to account for it. Thereupon the ladies told him that he was still alive to the difference of sex, but not so the son, whose vision was faultless. How did the citizens of Hastinapura come to recognize him when he visited the Guru Jangangala country and went about that city like one mad, dumb, and dull? And how did the royal sage Parikushit come to have a talk with that sage, in the course of which the latter recited this Bhagavata Purana? The highly blessed sage awaits at the door of householders to sanctify their abode only for such time as one takes a milking a cow. They say King Parikushit or Sutta was counted among the foremost devotees of the Lord. Kindly narrate to us the story of his most wonderful birth and doings. Why did that emperor, who served to enhance the glory of the Bhanandavas, take his seat on the bank of the Ganga with a vow to fast unto death, spreading his imperial fortune? Enemies bowed at his footstool, bringing to him riches for their own security. It is really strange, dear Sultan. How did that valiant prince, while he was so young, take it into his head to relinquish that fortune, which is so difficult to renounce, as well as his life? Men who are solely devoted to the Lord of excellent fame live, not for their own sake, but only for the welfare, affluence, and prosperity of the world. Why then did he cast off his body, which was the support of other beings, in a spirit of aversion? Therefore pray, tell us all that we have asked you on this occasion, for we know you have mastered the entire range of sacred lore, barring, of course, the Vedas. Sutta replied, in the Dwapara age, the third yuga of the present Chaturi Yogi, the great yogi Vyasa, who is a part manifestation of Sri Hari, was born of Satyavati through the sage Parashara. One day, after taking his bath in the sacred water of the Sarasvati, he sat in a lonely place just at sunrise. The sage, who had an unfailing eye and could read the past as well as the future, saw how, by flux of time, which passed unnoticed, there ensued in every age an overlapping of duties, as a result of which the potency of material objects had diminished, and people had grown irreverent, weak, dull-witted, and short-lived. Finding the people so unlucky, the sage began to investigate by means of his divine insight as to wherein lay the welfare of men belonging to all the grades of society and stages of life. Perceiving that Vedic sacrifices, which are performed through the agency of 4 priests, are the purifiers of men, he divided the one Veda into 4 for the continuance of sacrifices. He thus separated the 4 Vedas under the names of Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. And the Itihasas and the Puranas are called the 5th Veda. Of these Paila received Rigveda, the seer Jaimini learned how to chant the Samaveda, while Vaishambhayana was the only one who mastered the Yajurveda. The sage Sumantu, son of Daruno, acquired proficiency in the Atharva Veda, while my father, Roma Harshana, divided their respective Vedas into more than one branches. In this way, through their pupils, and the pupils of these latter, the four Vedas came to be divided into so many branches. The divine Vyasa, who is compassionate to men of poor wits, did so in order that even the dull-witted might be able to retain the Vedas. Seeing that the women, the Shudras, and the fallen Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, were debarred even from hearing the Vedas and did not know how to perform acts that are conducive to good, the sage was good enough to compose the Mahabharata epic in order that women and others too might attain blessedness through the same. I'm gonna pause. That's really interesting. Even though Vyasa ever remained wholeheartedly engaged in doing good to living creatures, his heart was not satisfied with it, O Brahmanas. Feeling uneasy at heart, the sage, who knew the secret of Taima, sat reflecting in a secluded spot on the holy bank of the Saraswati, and said to himself thus: observing the vow of celibacy, I reverently studied the Vedas, served the elders and worshipped the sacrificial fires, and honestly followed their precepts. I have also revealed the purport of the Vedas through the Mahabharata, in which even women, the Shudras, and others can find their respective duties and other things explained. Though I stand foremost among those who are preeminent in sacred knowledge, and possess uncommon powers too, my soul, it seems, has not yet realized its true nature. Is it because I have not yet fully expounded the virtues that enable one to attain the Lord? It is these virtues that are loved by God-realized saints, and they alone are dear to Lord Vishnu himself. While something was wanting in him, the sage Narada called at his hermitage already referred to. When the sage Vedavyasa saw Narada come, he instantly rose to receive him and duly offered the worship to the celestial sage, who was adored even by the gods. Thus ends the fourth discourse, forming part of the story relating to the Naimisha forest in Book 1 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I'll read the translation again. I'm going to read it up to where I was in Sanskrit eventually. I'll read like three to four chapters tomorrow morning. It took me like almost 40 minutes to read up to chapter 4. Tomorrow I'm gonna read chapter 5. I'll fix that now. Okay. Yes, just really short Sanskrit studies today. I'm not even doing a yoga sutras. I'm too tired, and it's late, so I don't wanna use my mouth at night. Thank you. I'm gonna do ASMR or go to sleep. Namaste.